The great crystal amphitheater of the Galactic Council hummed with the voices of 1,000 different species. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone at the center of the circular chamber, her small human form dwarfed by the towering representatives surrounding her. Above, the crystalline dome showed the swirling colors of hyperspace, a reminder that they floated in a space station between the stars, far from any world that might call itself home. The Vortac representative, a being that looked like a cross between a mantis and a tree, clicked its mandibles in what Sarah had learned was their version of contempt. Its translator device rendered the clicks into cold, mechanical words that echoed through the chamber. The human species has proven itself unworthy of membership in our galactic community, the Vortac announced. They are violent, unpredictable, and refuse to follow the established codes of civilized behavior. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. Ambassador Crixtal, humanity has contributed significantly to galactic science, trade, and peacekeeping efforts. We've helped resolve 3 major conflicts in the outer spiral alone. A sound like grinding metal came from the Zephyrian section. Their spokesman, a creature of living metal and circuits, projected words directly into the translation matrix. Your methods are crude and barbaric. You solve disputes through violence when diplomacy should prevail. Sometimes violence is the only language aggressors understand, Sarah replied. The Kareth pirates weren't going to stop raiding colony ships because we asked them nicely. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, whistles, clicks, electronic pulses, and harmonics that no human throat could produce. The council speaker, an ancient being from the eternal sept that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, pulsed a deep purple to restore order. The evidence against humanity is overwhelming. The speaker's voice resonated directly in every mind present. In the 200 years since first contact, humans have started 47 armed conflicts, violated 32 non-interference protocols, and refused to accept guidance from more experienced civilizations on 118 separate occasions. Sarah felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. She thought of Earth, of the billions of humans who had put their faith in her to maintain their place among the stars. Every species here has a history of violence. The Korthani Empire enslaved half their sector before joining the Council. The Meridian Confederacy strip-mined 17 worlds before developing environmental protocols. Why are humans being held to a different standard? The jellyfish-like speaker pulsed a cold blue. Because they learned from their mistakes and accepted our wisdom. Humans refuse to evolve beyond their primitive nature. Primitive? Sarah's composure cracked slightly. Human technology has advanced galactic medical science by centuries. Our quantum jump drives are more efficient than anything the Council had before. Our adaptive algorithms revolutionized interspecies communication. Technology without wisdom is dangerous, said the Quilarian delegate, a bird-like being with iridescent feathers that shifted through a spectrum of colors. Humans create wonders, yes, but they also create weapons. Your species cannot be trusted with advanced knowledge. The accusation stung because Sarah knew it contained a grain of truth. Humans had a talent for turning peaceful technologies into weapons. The same quantum mechanics that powered their jump drives had been weaponized into reality-shearing bombs. The adaptive algorithms that helped species communicate had been modified into viral programs that could cripple enemy computer systems. But that was survival, Sarah thought, in a galaxy where established powers looked down on newcomers, where some species viewed humans as useful tools or amusing pets. Adaptation meant the difference between thriving and extinction. The Council has made its decision, the speaker announced. Humanity is hereby expelled from the galactic community. All human colonies beyond the Sol system are to be evacuated within 1 standard year. All trade agreements are terminated immediately. No Council species shall provide aid, technology, or sanctuary to humans. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. You're condemning an entire species based on fear and prejudice. Humanity has contributed more to galactic civilization in 2 centuries than some Council members have in millennia. The decision is final. The speaker's mental voice carried a note of dismissal. Humanity will return to its homeworld, and remain there, perhaps in a few thousand years, when your species has learned to control its violent impulses. The Council might consider readmission. The chamber began to empty as delegates from various species filed out through translocation portals. Some cast pitying looks at Sarah. Others seemed satisfied that a problem had been solved. The Vortac representative paused near her, mandibles clicking. Your species had potential, Krixtal said, almost gently. But potential without wisdom leads only to destruction. Perhaps isolation will teach you what cooperation could not. Soon Sarah stood alone in the vast chamber, the weight of failure crushing her chest. She activated her personal communicator and opened a channel to Earth. Command, this is Ambassador Chen. Operation Homecoming is. The exile order has been confirmed. Begin immediate evacuation protocols for all outer colonies. The voice of Director Harrison crackled through subspace. Sarah, what happened? The preliminary reports suggested the Council was leaning toward probation, not exile. They're afraid of us, Director. Not of our weapons or our technology, but of what we represent. Change, challenge to the established order. They've been comfortable in their little club for millennia, and humans ask too many inconvenient questions. How long do we have? 1 standard year for complete evacuation. After that, any human found outside the Sol system will be considered a hostile entity. There was a long pause before Harrison spoke again. Then we come home. All of us. And we remember this day. Sarah closed the channel and looked up at the dome, where the swirling colors of hyperspace painted patterns of impossible beauty. Somewhere out there, human colonies were about to receive the worst news in their species' history. Families would be torn apart. Scientists would have to abandon decades of research. Entire communities that had found new homes among the stars would be forced to return to an increasingly crowded Earth. But as she stood there, Sarah felt something unexpected stirring in her chest. Not despair, but anger. Not defeat, but determination. The Council thought they were sentencing humanity to decline and eventual insignificance. They saw the Sol system as a prison that would contain human ambition until it withered and died. They were wrong. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks aboard the diplomatic courier ship Meridian. Sarah spent most of the time in her quarters, reviewing the evacuation reports that came in daily. The numbers were staggering. 12 million humans scattered across 47 colonies and research stations, mining operations in the asteroid fields of distant systems, scientific outposts studying exotic phenomena that could only be observed from specific locations in space. All of it had to come home. The colonies closest to Earth began their evacuations immediately. Ships that had been designed for exploration and trade were hastily converted to carry refugees. Commercial vessels that normally hauled cargo found themselves packed with families and their few possessions. The larger, more established colonies would take months to properly evacuate. Some chose not to wait. Reports came in of human ships disappearing into the void, their crews choosing exile over abandonment of their new homes. The Council had surveillance networks throughout known space, but the galaxy was vast and humans had always been good at finding places to hide. Director Harrison met Sarah at the orbital station above Earth. He looked older than his 60 years, gray hair disheveled from running his hands through it, eyes red from lack of sleep. The preliminary numbers are in, he said without preamble. We'll have about 8 million refugees by the time the evacuation is complete. Earth's population will hit 12 billion for the first time in human history. Housing, resources, we'll manage. We have to. But Sarah, there's something else. Something the Council doesn't know about. He led her to a secure briefing room deep in the station's core, where even quantum scanners couldn't penetrate. Inside waited a small group of people Sarah recognized as some of humanity's brightest minds. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the quantum physicist who had developed human jump drive technology. General Marcus Stone, the strategic genius who had planned humanity's most successful military operations. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the xenobiologist who understood alien psychology better than most aliens understood themselves. The Exodus Project, Harrison said simply. Sarah raised an eyebrow. I've never heard of any Exodus Project, because it was classified beyond even your clearance level, Doctor, Warren said. We've been working on it for 50 years, ever since we realized the Council would never truly accept us as equals. General Stone activated a holographic display that showed the Sol system, but with details Sarah had never seen before. Hidden stations in the outer asteroid belt, massive construction facilities beyond the orbit of Pluto, ships that didn't appear on any official registry. The Council thinks they're sending us into exile, Stone said. They think they're cutting us off from galactic civilization, but they've actually given us something we've never had before, which is Dr. Tanaka smiled. Freedom from their rules. Freedom from their oversight. Freedom to become what we were always meant to be. The hologram zoomed out, showing not just the Sol system, but the nearby star systems that the Council considered empty, worthless, or too dangerous to explore. Red lines began connecting the systems, showing potential jump routes and resource flows. The Council sees 12 billion humans crammed into one system as a problem that will solve itself, Harrison said. They expect us to exhaust our resources, fight among ourselves, and eventually collapse into irrelevance. They don't understand that 12 billion humans with nothing to lose and everything to prove are the most dangerous force in the galaxy. Sarah studied the display, her mind racing. You're talking about expansion. Secret expansion. We're talking about evolution, Dr. Warren corrected. The Council rejected us because we don't fit their model of civilized behavior. Fine. Then we'll create our own model. The systems they've forbidden us to enter, Dr. Tanaka added, are the ones with the most potential for breakthrough discoveries. Quantum anomalies that could revolutionize space travel. Biological phenomena that might unlock the secrets of consciousness itself. Stellar formations that suggest technologies we can barely imagine. General Stone's expression was grim. The Council has been stagnant for millennia. They're so afraid of change that they've stopped evolving. While they sit in their crystal towers debating protocol, we'll be out there learning, growing, becoming something they never expected. Sarah felt the pieces falling into place. How many ships do you have? How many people are involved? 2 million volunteers and their families, Harrison said. Scientists, engineers, explorers, and yes, soldiers. All of them have been told they're part of a deep space research project. Which, in a way, they are. And the Council? Will never know we exist until it's too late, Dr. Warren said. Our technology is already beyond theirs in key areas. Give us a century of unrestricted development, and we'll have capabilities they can't even comprehend. Sarah looked around the room at these brilliant, determined faces. She thought of the Council's arrogance, their dismissive certainty that humanity was just another primitive species that could be managed and contained. When do we begin? The first expedition launches in 6 months, General Stone said. Officially, they're long-range survey missions to catalog asteroids for mining operations. Unofficially, they're the advanced scouts of humanity's real future. The Council wanted to exile us, Harrison said. Instead, they've freed us. They wanted to contain our expansion. Instead, they've given us a reason to expand beyond anything they thought possible. They wanted to teach us humility. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since the trial, she felt genuinely hopeful. Instead, they're about to learn what happens when you underestimate human determination. The meeting concluded with detailed briefings on ship assignments, resource allocation, and communication protocols. As Sarah left the station and returned to Earth's surface, she looked up at the stars and tried to imagine what humanity would become in the years ahead. The Council thought they had solved their human problem with exile and isolation. They had no idea they had just created something far more dangerous than an unruly member species. They had created an enemy with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Down on Earth's surface, in hidden facilities across every continent, the real work had already begun. Ships were being built with technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Volunteers were training for missions into the unknown depths of space. Scientists were developing weapons and tools that would have terrified the Council if they had known such things were possible. Humanity was going into exile, but they would not be going alone, and they would not be going quietly. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could achieve when all pretense of civilized behavior was stripped away, when survival and revenge became the driving forces of an entire species. The Council had made their choice. Soon, humanity would show them the consequences. 50 years had passed since the exile began, and Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the massive orbital fortress that had once been called Hope Station. Now it was simply known as Prime, the administrative heart of humanity's hidden empire. Through the reinforced transparisteel, she could see the construction yards where ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever imagined were taking shape. These weren't the elegant, curved vessels favored by Council species with their emphasis on aesthetic beauty over function. Human ships were angular, aggressive, built for one purpose: to survive anything the universe could throw at them and hit back twice as hard. Admiral, The latest reports from the outer colonies are in, Captain Rodriguez said as he approached with a datapad. His uniform bore the insignia of the Human Deep Space Command, an organization that officially didn't exist. Elena took the pad and scrolled through the numbers. The growth was staggering. What had begun as secret expeditions to empty star systems had become a sprawling network of colonies, research stations, and industrial complexes. Humanity now controlled territory spanning nearly 100 systems, all of them beyond the detection range of Council surveillance. The Helix Nebula mining operation is exceeding projections again, she noted. Dr. Chen's team found another deposit of quantum crystallized matter. That brings our reserves up to enough to power the entire fleet for the next decade. The Council still doesn't know what quantum crystallized matter is, do they? Rodriguez asked. Elena smiled grimly. They think it's just another pretty rock formation. They have no idea it's the most powerful energy source in the galaxy. Their own survey teams probably flew right past deposits without giving them a second glance. That was the beauty of humanity's situation. The Council's arrogance had blinded them to possibilities they couldn't imagine. While they debated proper protocols for scanning asteroids, humans had discovered materials and phenomena that revolutionized technology. While they worried about disturbing, dangerous regions of space, humans had learned to harness cosmic forces that made fusion power look like a candle flame. What about the Prometheus program? Elena asked. Rodriguez's expression grew serious. Dr. Nakamura says they're ready for the first full test. The volunteers have been in biosuspension for the past month while the modifications complete. Elena nodded slowly. The Prometheus program was humanity's most ambitious project, and its most controversial. Using genetic templates recovered from ruins in the void sectors, human scientists had learned to enhance the human genome in ways that pushed the boundaries of what could be called natural evolution. The early experiments had been conservative. Improved reflexes, enhanced immune systems, better radiation resistance for deep space work. But as the years passed and humanity's exile stretched on, the modifications had become more radical. The newest generation of enhanced humans could survive in hard vacuum for hours, process information at superhuman speeds, and interface directly with computer systems through neural implants. They were still recognizably human, but they represented something new. Something the galaxy had never seen. How many volunteers for the next phase? Elena asked. 3,000 this cycle. Word is spreading through the colonies that enhancement isn't just an advantage anymore, it's becoming a necessity. The environments we're working in, the technologies we're developing, they're beyond baseline human capabilities. Elena walked to another section of the observation deck, where she could see the training facilities where humanity's new military forces were preparing for an inevitable future. These weren't the peacekeepers and explorers who had served in the old days when humans tried to fit in with galactic civilization. These were soldiers trained for a very different kind of warfare. The Council species had fought wars, but they were formal affairs with rules and limitations. Battles were conducted with honor. Prisoners were treated according to galactic conventions, and there were certain weapons and tactics that civilized species simply didn't use. Humans had thrown all of that out the window. Show me the latest combat simulations, Elena ordered. Rodriguez activated a holographic display that showed the results of the most recent war games. Human forces had been pitted against virtual recreations of various Council military units. Using all available intelligence about their capabilities and tactics, the results were devastatingly one-sided. The Corthani battle fleet simulation lasted 18 minutes, Rodriguez reported. The Zephyrian defensive grid held for 43 minutes. The Vortex swarm tactics proved most effective, lasting almost 2 hours before total defeat. What about combined Council forces? 78 minutes. They're simply not prepared for our approach to warfare. Elena studied the tactical breakdowns. Human forces used weapons that the Council considered too dangerous or immoral for civilized warfare. Nano-swarm bombs that consumed enemy ships from the inside out. Quantum disruptors that could tear holes in reality itself. Biological weapons that targeted specific alien physiologies with surgical precision. But the real advantage wasn't in the weapons themselves. It was in the human willingness to use them without hesitation. They still think war is a game with rules, Elena mused. They don't understand that when your species' survival is at stake, there are no rules except victory or extinction. A communication alert chimed, and Elena activated the secure channel. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, now in her 90s but kept vital by advanced medical technology, appeared as a hologram. Admiral, we've had a breakthrough in the Omega Research Division, Warren said without preamble. We've successfully reversed engineered the quantum consciousness transfer technology from the ruins on Kepler 442b. Elena felt her pulse quicken. The ruins scattered throughout the galaxy's unexplored regions had been humanity's greatest discovery. Ancient civilizations that had risen and fallen millions of years ago, leaving behind technologies that defied current understanding. The Council knew about some of the ruins but considered them too dangerous to explore properly. Humans had no such reservations. Successful transfer? Elena asked. Complete consciousness transfer from a dying volunteer to a synthetic substrate. Not just memories or personality imprints, but actual continuity of consciousness. We're looking at functional immortality, Admiral. The implications were staggering. Humanity already had the advantage in technology and military capability. Add immortality to the mix, and they would become something the galaxy had never seen. An empire that could literally outlast any opposition. Begin immediate implementation for essential personnel, Elena ordered. How long until we can offer it to the general population? 2 years for full deployment. Maybe less if we can get the automated production facilities online ahead of schedule. As the communication ended, Elena turned to Rodriguez. Contact the Council Monitoring Division. It's time for our first probe. Ma'am? Send an unmarked ship into Council space. Nothing aggressive, just a reconnaissance mission to current galactic status. It's been 50 years since we've had direct intelligence on their activities. Which ship? The Shadow of Earth. Captain Morrison has experience with deep infiltration missions. 3 weeks later, the Shadow of Earth returned with intelligence that confirmed what Elena had suspected. The galaxy had changed in humanity's absence, and not for the better. Captain Morrison delivered his report in person, his enhanced neural interface allowing him to project detailed holographic data directly from his memories. The Council is fragmenting, he reported. Without humans as a common concern, old rivalries are surfacing. The Corthani Empire has been expanding aggressively in the outer spiral. The Zephyrians have closed their borders and are refusing trade with other species. There have been 3 minor wars in the past decade alone. And the economy? Stagnant. Human innovation drove most of the technological and economic growth for the past 2 centuries. Without that engine of change, the Council species are falling back on old patterns. Some sectors are actually regressing technologically. Elena nodded. This was what they had predicted. The Council had thought removing humanity would solve their problems. Instead, it had removed the one species capable of adapting to changing circumstances and driving progress forward. More importantly, Morrison continued, they're vulnerable. Military technology has barely advanced. Their surveillance networks have gaps we can exploit. And there's something else. The holographic display shifted to show intelligence on individual Council worlds. They're soft, Admiral. 50 years of peace and prosperity without any real challenges. Their military forces are ceremonial units that haven't seen actual combat in decades. Their populations have grown comfortable, complacent. They've forgotten that the galaxy can be a dangerous place. Elena studied the data carefully. Every instinct told her that humanity was ready, that they had the advantage they needed to reclaim their place among the stars. But 50 years of careful preparation had taught her patience. Begin Phase 2 of the expansion, she ordered. Establish forward bases in the buffer zones between Council and unknown space. Start making contact with non-Council species, but maintain communication, silence. I want to know everything about the current galactic situation before we make our move. Over the following months, human scout ships began operating in previously unexplored regions of the galaxy. What they found exceeded their most optimistic projections. Dozens of species existed beyond Council space, many of them more advanced than the Council races but lacking the political organization to challenge the established order. Some had been driven into exile by Council expansion centuries ago. Others had simply chosen isolation over subjugation. All of them were potential allies in the confrontation that was coming. The Crothari, a species of energy beings who had been forced from their home dimension by Council safety protocols. The Nexus Collective, artificial intelligences that had achieved consciousness but were denied recognition by organic supremacist Council policies. The Void Hunters, nomadic fleets that had been branded as pirates for refusing to accept Council trade regulations. Each represented capabilities that could complement humanity's growing power. We're not just building an empire, Elena realized as she reviewed the Alliance reports. We're creating a completely new galactic order. Dr. Warren's latest project reports confirmed her assessment. Human technology was advancing at an exponential rate, fueled by discoveries from ancient ruins and enhanced by modified human intellects that could process information at superhuman speeds. The latest generation of ships could travel faster than anything in Council space. Human weapons could penetrate any known defensive system. Human soldiers were faster, stronger, and more resilient than any organic species in the galaxy. But the most important development was philosophical. 50 years of exile had transformed humanity from a species trying to fit into galactic civilization into something entirely new. They had abandoned the Council's cautious, rule-bound approach to progress. They had embraced technologies and methods that other species considered too dangerous or immoral. They had become something that the galaxy's established powers couldn't understand or control. "Admiral," Rodriguez said as he entered Elena's office with the latest status reports. "We've received a priority communication from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. Council forces have detected some of our outer scout ships." Elena looked up from the strategic planning documents she had been reviewing. "Response? Standard protocol. The scouts activated their stealth systems and withdrew to safe distance. But Admiral, the Council reaction was interesting." Rodriguez activated the holographic display, showing intercepted Council communications. "They're calling it a unknown species incursion. They have no idea the ships were human. Our technology has advanced so far beyond what they remember that they don't recognize it." Elena smiled. "Perfect. Let them think they're dealing with mysterious aliens. It will give us more time to complete our preparations." "How much more time do we need?" Elena looked out at the construction yards where the newest generation of human vessels were taking shape, ships that weren't just faster and more powerful than anything the Council had, but that operated on principles the Council couldn't comprehend. Ships crewed by enhanced humans who could think at superhuman speeds and survive in environments that would kill any other species. Ships armed with weapons that could rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in localized areas. Ships that were, in every meaningful sense, immune to anything the Council could deploy against them. "One more year," she said finally. "One more year to complete the final phase of enhancement, to bring the Alliance fleets online, to position our forces for maximum strategic impact. And then?" Elena's expression grew cold. "Then we remind the galaxy why exiling humanity was the worst mistake in galactic history." The final year of preparation passed quickly. Human colonies throughout the unknown regions grew into full industrial complexes capable of supporting massive populations and producing advanced technologies. The alliance with non-Council species solidified into a formal confederation with humanity at its center. Most importantly, the final phase of human enhancement was completed. The newest generation of enhanced humans were barely recognizable as the same species that had been exiled 50 years earlier. They could survive in hard vacuum indefinitely, interface directly with quantum computer systems, and process information at rates that allowed them to experience subjective time differently from baseline humans. They were faster than any organic species, stronger than most artificial constructs, and possessed cognitive capabilities that bordered on precognitive. They were, in every sense that mattered, the next stage of human evolution, and they were ready for war. Standing on the bridge of the new flagship Prometheus, Elena reviewed the final preparation reports. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering, incorporating technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Its quantum crystallized power core could fuel operations for centuries. Its reality manipulation weapons could rewrite the laws of physics in localized space-time bubbles. Most importantly, its enhanced human crew could operate at levels of efficiency and coordination that no other species could match. "All fleet elements report ready, Admiral," Captain Morrison reported from his position at the tactical station. His neural enhancements allowed him to monitor hundreds of ships simultaneously, while maintaining awareness of tactical conditions across multiple star systems. "Alliance fleets? Standing by at designated coordinates. The Krathari energy matrix is fully charged. The Nexus collective battle platforms are online. The Void Hunter strike fleets are in position." Elena nodded. They had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. 50 years of advancement, evolution, and careful planning. The Council had expected humanity to wither in exile, to eventually collapse under the weight of isolation and resource limitations. Instead, humanity had used those 50 years to become something the galaxy had never seen, something that could not be defeated by conventional means. something that would reshape the entire concept of galactic civilization. Signal all units, Elena ordered. Operation Prometheus is go. Begin the advance. As the human fleet engaged their quantum jump drives and disappeared into the space between dimensions, Elena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Council had thought they were solving their human problem with exile. They were about to discover they had created something far more dangerous. They had created an empire that could not be defeated. The crystal amphitheater of the Galactic Council shuddered as massive ships dropped out of hyperspace directly above the station. Emergency alarms wailed through corridors that had known only peace for 50 years. Council delegates scrambled from their chambers, confusion and terror evident in every gesture and sound. The Eternal Septa speaker materialized in the central chamber, its jellyfish form pulsing urgent red patterns. All defensive systems activate immediately. Unknown hostiles have breached our security perimeter, but the defensive systems were already offline. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply deactivated by technologies that bypassed every security protocol the Council had ever developed. The massive orbital defense platforms that surrounded the station hung lifeless in space, their crews unable to understand why their systems no longer responded to commands. Council Security Chief Vorthak, a heavily armored Korthani battle commander, reported from the station's command center. Speaker, our entire defensive grid has been compromised. All weapon systems are inoperative. Life support and basic systems remain functional, but nothing else responds. How many ships? The speaker demanded. We count 12 vessels, but their energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be using some form of localized reality manipulation for propulsion and defense. High Admiral Kestar of the Zephyrian fleet attempted to maintain calm. Have they made any demands? Issued any communications? Negative. They're just waiting. Through the crystal dome, the assembled delegates could see the human fleet hanging motionless in the void. The ships were massive, angular constructs that seemed to bend light around their hulls. They radiated power signatures that the station's sensors couldn't properly measure. Then the communication came. Galactic Council, this is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Deep Space Command. I believe we have some unfinished business to discuss. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates who remembered the human exile 50 years ago stared in shock at the ships above them. Younger members who had only heard stories struggled to understand how the supposedly primitive species had returned with such overwhelming technological superiority. The speaker pulsed deep purple for silence. This is impossible. Humans were exiled to their home system. They lacked the capability for such an operation. Elena's voice came through the communication system with crystal clarity. Speaker, with respect, you clearly lack understanding of what humans are capable of when given proper motivation. We've been waiting 50 years for this conversation. Ambassador Krixtall, the Vortak representative who had presided over humanity's original exile, clicked his mandibles nervously. What do you want? You were exiled legally according to all galactic protocols. What we want, Elena replied, is very simple. We want the Council to understand exactly what your decision 50 years ago accomplished. The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated, showing not Elena herself but a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers began appearing throughout previously uncharted regions, each representing a human colony, research station, or industrial complex. The delegates stared in growing horror as hundreds, then thousands of markers appeared. Human territory stretched across nearly a quarter of the galaxy, encompassing star systems that the Council had written off as empty, dangerous, or worthless. 50 years ago you thought you were containing a problem, Elena continued. Instead, you freed humanity from the restrictions and limitations of galactic civilization. We've spent those 50 years learning what we could become without Council oversight. The Quilarian delegates' feathers shifted through panicked color patterns. This is impossible. Those regions are uninhabitable. The radiation levels alone would kill any organic life. Would kill any unmodified organic life, Elena corrected. Humans have evolved somewhat since you last encountered us. A new set of holographic displays activated, showing human colonies thriving in environments that should have been instantly lethal. Humans working in the vacuum of space without protection. Humans surviving in the coronas of stars while harvesting stellar material. Humans adapting to gravitational fields that should have crushed any organic structure. Enhanced humans, Elena explained. Genetic and cybernetic modifications that allow us to survive and thrive in environments you consider impossible. We've moved beyond the limitations that define your understanding of life itself. General Stone's image appeared alongside Elena's, his enhanced form clearly visible to the council delegates. His skin had a metallic sheen that indicated subcutaneous armor plating. His eyes glowed with internal light that suggested direct neural interface capabilities. The humans you remember no longer exist, Stone said. We've become something new. Something that doesn't need your approval or your protection. The Meridian Confederacy delegate, a crystalline being that communicated through harmonic resonance, produced a sound like breaking glass. What do you want from us? Revenge? Elena's expression remained calm. We want recognition. We want the Council to formally acknowledge that humanity's exile was a mistake, and we want to discuss the terms of your surrender. Surrender? The speaker's mental voice carried disbelief. You speak of 12 ships against the entire galactic fleet. I speak of 12 ships that your entire galactic fleet cannot damage, crewed by beings you cannot understand, armed with weapons that operate beyond your comprehension of physics, Elena replied. But you're right to focus on numbers. Allow me to provide better context. The holographic display changed again, showing the space around the council station. What had appeared to be empty void began to fill with ship signatures as cloaking systems deactivated. Hundreds of vessels materialized, surrounding the station in a sphere of overwhelming firepower. But they weren't all human ships. The Krathari Energy Collective, Elena announced as beings of pure energy, manifested in crystalline matrices. The Nexus AI consciousness. Massive geometric constructs that pulsed with digital intelligence appeared. The Void Hunter clans. Sleek, predatory vessels that seemed to devour light itself became visible. And these represent perhaps 10% of the forces we can deploy on immediate notice, Elena continued. The beings you've marginalized, ignored, or exiled over the millennia have found common cause with humanity. We've spent 50 years building not just an empire, but an alliance of everyone you've rejected. Council Security Chief Vorthak reported from the command center, his voice thick with fear. Speaker, energy readings are off all scales. If they opened fire, we wouldn't last 30 seconds. Then it's fortunate we're not here for destruction, Elena said. We're here for transformation. The speaker pulsed uncertain colors. What do you mean? The galaxy has been stagnant for millennia under Council rule. You've prioritized stability over progress, tradition over innovation. You've created a civilization that fears change and punishes those who think differently. Elena's image was replaced by recordings of human colonies. But these weren't the desperate refugee settlements the Council might have expected. They showed thriving cities that floated in open space, research facilities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and industrial complexes that harvested energy directly from cosmic phenomena. Humanity has spent 50 years proving that your approach to civilization is fundamentally flawed, Elena continued. While you've debated proper protocols, we've learned to reshape matter at the quantum level. While you've maintained traditional energy sources, we've learned to tap the fundamental forces of the universe. While you've preserved existing social structures, we've evolved into something that transcends the limitations of organic intelligence. Dr. Warren's enhanced form appeared in the transmission, her consciousness now existing as much in quantum substrates as in organic neurons. We've achieved functional immortality. Our enhanced minds can process information at rates that compress centuries of thought into minutes. We've learned to transfer consciousness between substrates, to exist in multiple bodies simultaneously, to back up and restore our entire beings. The implications hit the Council delegates like a physical blow. They were facing a species that had transcended every limitation that defined organic life. But you're still human, Ambassador Krixtal protested weakly. We're what humans became when freed from your restrictions, Elena replied. And we're here to offer the galaxy a choice. The holographic display showed two possible futures. In one, the galaxy continued under Council rule, slowly stagnating as resources were depleted and civilizations declined. In the other, human and allied technologies revolutionized every aspect of galactic life, opening up previously impossible frontiers. Join us, Elena said simply. Acknowledge that the old system has failed, and work with us to build something better. Share in the technologies and knowledge we've developed. Help us transform the galaxy into something that can survive and thrive for millions of years. And if we refuse? The speaker asked. Elena's expression didn't change, but every delegate in the chamber felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Then you become irrelevant. We don't need your permission to expand our territory or implement our technologies. We don't require your approval to contact other species or establish trade relationships. The question is whether you want to be partners in the galaxy's future or relics of its past. High Admiral Kestar activated his personal communicator, trying to contact the Zephyrian home fleet. The device remained silent. Our communication networks are down, he reported with growing alarm. Not down, Elena corrected. Controlled. Every major communication hub in Council space is currently under our supervision. Your military fleets are receiving new orders that will stand down all aggressive actions. Your trade networks are being integrated into our economic systems. Your research facilities are being upgraded with technologies that will advance your capabilities by centuries. This is an invasion, the Quillarian delegate screeched. This is an intervention, Elena replied calmly. The galaxy is changing whether you participate or not. We're offering you the choice to be part of that change rather than victims of it. Ambassador Krixtal's mandibles clicked in what might have been resignation. What are your specific terms? Dissolution of the current council authority structure. Establishment of a new galactic confederation with equal representation for all species, including those you've previously rejected. Immediate sharing of all technological databases. And formal recognition that humanity's exile was an act of discriminatory persecution that violated the principles of justice you claim to uphold. The speaker pulsed rapidly through several color combinations, clearly communicating with other council members through channels the humans couldn't monitor. After several minutes, it stabilized on a deep blue that indicated reluctant acceptance. The council cannot speak for all member species, the speaker said finally. This decision must be ratified by individual governments. Already handled, Elena replied. Similar conversations are taking place simultaneously in every council capital system. You'll find that most governments are quite receptive to proposals that ensure their civilization's survival and prosperity. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just returned from exile with superior technology. They had orchestrated a galaxy-wide operation that gave every major power the same choice simultaneously. How? High Admiral Kestar whispered. 50 years of careful preparation, General Stone replied. Infiltration, intelligence, gathering, alliance building, and technological development. While you assumed we were struggling in isolation, we were systematically mapping every weakness in your civilization, but also every strength, Elena added. We don't want to destroy what the Council has built. We want to transform it into something better. Many of your achievements are admirable. Your peacekeeping efforts prevented countless wars. Your trade networks supported billions of beings. Your cultural exchanges preserved knowledge and traditions. We simply want to add human efficiency, innovation, and adaptability to those achievements. Dr. Warren continued. Imagine Council peacekeeping operations with access to technologies that can prevent conflicts before they begin. Imagine trade networks that can transport goods instantly across galactic distances. Imagine cultural exchanges between species that can share consciousness directly. The Meridian Confederacy delegate produced harmonics that translated as cautious hope. And you would share these capabilities? With appropriate safeguards and gradual implementation, Elena confirmed. We're not interested in creating chaos or destroying existing social structures overnight, but we are committed to ensuring that the galaxy progresses rather than stagnates. Over the following hours, the details of humanity's proposal became clear. The Council would be restructured into a truly representative body, with equal voting rights for all species. Advanced human technologies would be gradually introduced to prevent economic or social disruption. Enhanced humans would serve as advisors and technical specialists, but local governance would remain in the hands of existing leadership. Most importantly, the age of stagnation was over. Research into dangerous technologies would be actively pursued with proper safeguards. Expansion into previously forbidden regions of space would be systematically undertaken. The artificial limitations that had kept galactic civilization trapped in familiar patterns for millennia would be removed. There is one final matter. Elena said as the negotiations neared conclusion. The question of justice. The chamber fell silent. 50 years ago, this council condemned an entire species based on fear and prejudice. Billions of humans were forced from their homes, their achievements dismissed, their contributions forgotten. Many died during the evacuation. All suffered from the arbitrary cruelty of beings who considered themselves morally superior. Elena's voice remained calm, but every delegate could sense the steel beneath her words. We could demand reparations. We could insist on formal punishment for those responsible. We could require public acknowledgement of the harm that was done. The speaker pulsed anxious yellow. What do you require? Nothing, Elena said simply. The transformation of galactic civilization into something worthy of its potential is justice enough. The knowledge that humanity's exile ultimately led to benefits for every species in the galaxy provides sufficient satisfaction. But understand this, General Stone added, this level of mercy will never be offered again. Any future attempt to discriminate against or marginalize any species will be met with immediate and overwhelming response. The galaxy will be a place where all sentient life can thrive, or it will be a place where those who prevent such thriving cease to exist. The vote was unanimous. Faced with the choice between partnership and irrelevance, every council delegate chose to embrace the future that humanity offered. As the formal ceremonies concluded and the new Galactic Confederation was officially established, Elena stood on the observation deck of the Prometheus and watched the council station's defensive systems come back online under human control. Any regrets, Admiral? Captain Morrison asked. Elena considered the question carefully. About the exile? No. If the council hadn't forced humanity to leave, we never would have achieved what we became. Their cruelty was the catalyst for our transformation. And the future? Elena looked out at the stars, where human ships were already beginning the process of upgrading council territories with technologies that would transform every aspect of galactic life. The future belongs to those who have the courage to seize it, she said. 50 years ago, the council thought they were protecting themselves from human ambition. Instead, they created the force that would reshape everything they thought they understood about civilization itself. The galaxy will never be the same. No, Elena agreed. It will be better. It will be what we were always meant to build together, once artificial barriers were removed and true cooperation became possible. As the Prometheus prepared to jump to hyperspace, carrying news of the new Confederation to human colonies throughout the galaxy, Elena reflected on the strange paths that history could take. Humanity had been exiled as a dangerous, uncontrollable species that threatened galactic stability. They had returned as the architects of a new age that would benefit every sentient being in the galaxy. The Council had tried to contain human potential. Instead, they had freed it to transform everything. And in doing so, they had discovered that the greatest threat to an established order wasn't a species that refused to follow the rules. It was a species capable of making those rules obsolete. The galaxy would be forever grateful for humanity's exile, because without it, none of them would have discovered what they could truly become.